What's going on, guys? So today I wanted to cover some tips that will help you get better with the shape. So in total I have 5 tips that I believe at least a couple are overlooked, and I just kind of wanted just to address them. So with that boring intro out of the way, let's go ahead and hop on to tip number 1. Alright, so the first tip I would like to give is not to chase while you are in Tier 1 Evil Within, because you are extremely slow, and when I mean slow, you are slow as hell, and you can't get Bloodlust, so unless you got like an add-on like Scratch Mirror, there's no reason you should aim to be in Tier 1 Evil Within for a long period of time, just for that reason. In my opinion, the best way to use Tier 1 is just to pretty much stalk them from a distance. Or if you're feeling really risky and you just know they're not paying attention, all you gotta do is walk up and grab them. That's a good way to, scare the hell out of them. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and go to tip number 2. Alright, so for our second tip that I want to talk about, I like to call it the mental game, and no, I'm not talking about really mind gaming. I mean, obviously you can do that with any killer, but for this particular situation, I mean that you have to keep track of survivors you have stalked. So for example, if you have stalked a survivor to the max, or they're really close and you're not going to be, getting much out of them to tier up, to your next tier, they should be your primary target, just because they're not going to help you or benefit you, towards the end game, just because, they're not going to give you any evil within. So go ahead and try to get rid of them as soon as possible. That way you can secure, a kill or two at the end if it does reach, or goes to that point. So let's go ahead and hop on to tip number 3. Alright, so the third tip I want to talk about is getting to 99% in Evil Within Tier 2. Now this is probably the most effective strategy to use with the shape, because you can easily get a one hit down, and in an ideal situation you really want to get super close to the survivor. That way once you tier up to Tier 3 and you're really close, the odds of you missing is pretty slim. So that's just how I would do it. Now there are a lot of people that get to 99% but they won't get close enough to the survivors, and they get ran around for at least half of Evil Within Tier 3, and then it's not really wasted per se, but it just saves a lot of time while giving you the most reward, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and go to our fourth tip. Alright, so my fourth tip I want to talk about is using your stalk ability to find survivors that are really stealthy, or just in general really hard to find. Now, yes, this sounds like common sense, but let me explain here, because it's a little bit more complicated than that, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, the reason why I think this is overlooked is because you're going to be focused on, gaining more evil within and, tiering up, if you will. Now, there's going to be a lot of times when you're just walking around and, you're just going to stumble upon survivors, whether it be, a group of them or just, one or two. But the main point I want to drive home here is, just because you don't see them, make sure to check to see if you're getting deviousness points for stalking. Now, if you are doing that, you are heading in the right direction. And I know a lot of people really overlook that. At least in my experiences playing against Michael as a survivor, people just tend to really overlook that, and that that's a huge indicator that there's at least one, that's nearby. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop on to our fifth and final tip. Alright, so the last tip I want to give you guys is about patience. Now with the shape, you're going to have to be very patient and just kind of let things develop, just because you're going to need time to build up evil within, but you really shouldn't play that aggressive until you hit tier 2 Evil Within, because that's when the game really gets good for Michael. Because he gets, normal killer speed along with a normal lunge. Not to mention he's got a small tear radius of 16 meters. Now, the last thing I want to add kind of about this topic is you're going to scare survivors once they see you, especially if you're in the process of stalking them and you haven't hit tier 2 yet. It's a wonderful strategy. It works out really well. Now, they're going to be making mistakes early on. Usually not all the time, but most of the time they're going to be making a lot of mistakes because they're going to be scared, which is great for you, just because if they make a big enough mistake, you're going to get a lot of Evil Within off of them, and that's going to hurt them in the long run. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching. I really hope this helps you guys. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it, give it a thumbs down. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. Peace, love, and hair grease.